we are going to have a wonderful opportunity to tell a story that we all experienced a couple of weeks ago in a place far, far away, and I appreciate you being here to listen, and hopefully there'll be some time for questions if you'd like to ask a few. I'd like to just kind of put a little frame around this to begin our time together, kind of give you a general idea of what we did, and then each of our team can come up and kind of give you more of the specifics. Let me kind of give you the order that we'll go. I'll share a little bit, and Amy will come up, and then the Cripps, and then the Marciniacs, and then Montgomery, and Jason will come up to finish the testimony time. The first picture I'd like to show you, you know all these folks. This is our group picture before we left. And we probably need to cut off the side lights and maybe pretty much everything inside to let you get a view of this. And this is obviously a wonderful group of folks in the midst of our church. We love each other. We loved each other before the trip. I think we can say we love you even more after the trip. And it was great to see how the Lord used each individual spiritual gift that they have in the church, and as they went outside the church, God used these eight in a wonderful way. And as we go through this, the question I want you to keep thinking about is, will you be in that picture next year? Maybe not just to Haiti, maybe another trip to Thailand, or God may call you to help youth this summer in New Orleans. But this is the group that God put together to travel 1,500 miles away to Haiti. Okay, Alan, you go to the next picture. I put John's picture up just so you'll remember in prayer. This is a 32-year-old fella that has been obedient to the Lord, and God has given him a wonderful ministry. He heads up the ministry in Knoxville, but he has a vision for 4 other orphanages throughout the world. Now, this one is the one that's kind of ahead of all in Haiti, but he also has these plans for the Dominican Republic and Brazil and also Africa. So keep John Miller in your prayers. This is Dr. Francisco Noel and his wife Cece, and Dr. Noel and his wife are in Haiti full time. So John travels around, and he's there about 2 weeks out of each month. And this couple takes care of the day-to-day operations. Just a dear couple. Dr. Noel, obviously a medical doctor, and his wife is a nurse, and they love the people there. God brought them together with John several years ago. And as you see the pictures, as you begin to see the hotel that we stayed in, and just to see how God sovereignly put all this together, Cece's dad is the manager of the hotel that we stayed, and he also owns the home where the temporary orphanage is right now. And it's just a huge home. There's more rooms than you could even imagine, and it's enough to house the 75 children plus the 20 or so adults that have to live there. And so just keep them in your prayers. We talked to them about maybe coming up in a couple of months, and they already have a visa, so it wouldn't be a problem. And I'd love for you to meet them and get to know them. Well, we're in a beautiful land. I think I emailed my wife early on and said, honey, the plane didn't land in Haiti. We flew all the way to Hawaii. Wish you were here. But that was the sunset every night that we were there. And that's kind of looking off the deck where we were able to stay. And it is just a paradise. And I wanted you to see that, to contrast it with the next picture. That's basically right across the street. So you have all this beauty in this land, and the poverty level is just incredible. This young mother, you see her 3 little ones, one without any clothes. This was one of the huts that we stopped by just to find out a little bit about them. She is not in school any longer. She would like to work. She can't find a job. She has 3 little ones. They had no food that day. I asked her, did she have any plans on getting food? She didn't have any plans. She didn't know how she was going to get any food. And by God's grace, we had, a month's worth of rice that we were able to leave with her. And see, that's really not the fix. That's help. That's like giving somebody a fish. And one of the reasons I'm so thankful to be a part of what John is doing in One Vision is that his vision is to teach them to fish. And I want to show you how that's, they plan on doing that. And this is the orphanage that is probably 150 or 200 yards from that hut. As you remember him saying that they have purchased 40 acres. Now this footprint right here probably only represents a couple of acres. So this is kind of the center of all of the property. And then if you can think of a 7-acre wall that goes around this. So there's a lot of area inside of this compound. And you can see the plans with buildings 3 at the top up there. They are already being built. This one right here already has a roof on it. 3 at the bottom down there, they were building the foundation while we were there. And those are actually the children's dormitories where they'll be staying. Number 1 over in the left corner, is that 7? I guess that's a 7. 7 in the top corner. That's actually a kind of a storage place. That's where we put folks that were preparing to see Crystal and Tim as she was pulling teeth and taking care of them. And that happened in building 1 or in that vicinity. You'll kind of see that with other people's pictures. But what's going to happen is that there'll be build a well there. The folks will have to walk for water. They'll make it accessible. There'll be a medical center there. There'll be a school there, not just for the children in the orphanage, but for 200 other children. So there's a plan in place to build a church. There's a plan in place to plant crops, to hire people to manage those crops and to buy the food there. And so a business generally won't go into a community unless they see immediate profits. And I don't know if this will ever make a major profit, but a ministry can go in, take care of the spiritual needs, and then begin to help them build an economy. They're even talking about offering small loans to people to help them get started so that we won't be just dropping off a month's supply of rice. But people will get up in the morning, and as you see these pictures, we'd ask people just be sitting in their huts and no plans for the day. They're just waiting, just sitting there. And they were very anxious to talk to you because they had nothing else to do. Dirt floors, you'll see all kinds of configurations of what they've thrown together to kind of keep themselves out of elements. But this is a reality, and they're hoping in the next couple of months to raise another $100,000 to actually finish the dormitories. And so we're thankful to be a part of that. This is from on top of the second dorm, kind of in the rafters. I didn't make this picture. I'm wondering who climbed up there. I think John may have sent me this. This is looking down on the dorm next to, that's probably the boys' dorm and the girls' dorm. And that big pit you see at the bottom is actually the septic tank area that they've had to build, and it's probably 10 or 12 foot deep. You can imagine to take care of over 100 people. And that corner of building, that was the area I told you a little bit about, that is housing all their supplies. And then the little building on the back part of that wall is where we set up all our medical treatment. And so you can see how that wall continues on down. And if you can just imagine, it just makes a big square box around this whole facility. The next picture, we're walking up the hill. You see the ocean in the foreground, the Caribbean. And there's the fellow on top of the building, I guess, that took the picture of the building next to the other dormitory. This was standing at the beach. The scenery is just incredible. Of course, taking a picture of the mountain range, and we found out those were 1,000-meter mountains, or about a half a mile tall mountains. And that building is the temporary orphanage. This is Mr. Isis, who is the manager of the hotel. He is allowing John to let the kids stay there at his home. And he just continues to build on this house, and I'm sure other people have pictures of that. So we are probably a half a mile from that location, I'm standing on the beach. So that's the scenery. That's what is available down there and what people are able to enjoy, but the poverty is just overtaken the place. Okay. Did everybody get this picture? Okay. So we're out in the compound. I don't even like calling it a compound. In the new orphanage, the new building area, and I mean we're back at home. I mean here we are, and this was a good place to take a rest if you needed one. It's very crudely made, except for the T that's in the middle, and that was hand painted, by the way, by a doctor friend of our family's, Steve Hall, that lives in Knoxville. The material to build that building cost $1,000, and we're just talking about 3 pieces of tin or 4 on the top. This right-hand side is actually open. There's not even a door. There's a railing in there where you can go in there and just take your time. And I thought you might enjoy a picture of the view as you look out the opening. So there you go. So you go in, you sit down, and it's amazing. And it's always good to take a friend with you that you can rest together. Maybe there's a game going on, or maybe not. But it did take us back home for a little while. And they do have a great sense of humor. We had a lot of fun down there. It's incredibly serious. The needs are serious. We're serious with the gospel. And yet we had a wonderful time. Now, some of you ask about hotel security. Well, there's one of them. One of the security guards in the hotel, that's in the lobby, and he is carrying a pump, Mossberg, I think it's a 500 assault shotgun. It's a 12 gauge, and that's an incredible piece of armament. And those guys were kind of all around the hotel, and that in itself would make you feel very comfortable. But if that didn't work, this next picture ought to make you even more comfortable. So in your left hand you got a shotgun, in your right hand you got Robert Cripps, and so we all slept just great that night. And not only that, they had incredible surveillance all over. So, you know, we never worried about anything happening because you have a 12-gauge shotgun and Robert Cripps, and we were all fine that week. So that's just a sweet picture of Robert checking out the place. What else do we have? Our group picture. And that's all the kids and the adults and a couple of Canadians kind of in the mix that were helping some of the ladies learn how to sew. A couple that's kind of in the right upper quadrant with baseball hats on. Those are a possibility of major donors from the Knoxville area. They're down just checking everything else out, and John was going to ask them to be a partner of the ministry there. So that's just kind of an overview. I thought we could kind of set the framework and let our other members kind of come up and give you more detail. And the first one to come up is Amy Tucker. This microphone over here, or David's mic, which would be good, okay. Now we can't see you, and that's probably a good thing for some that have never, or maybe struggled. Now look, Amy, come right here. There's nobody out there. You can't see anybody. Okay. So I'm going to stand up here with Amy just for a moment, or maybe the whole time, but you stand on this side so you can kind of tell your story. We want to, first of all, sing a song that we taught the Haitians. Because one of the things that we would do, especially during the medical time, there were, I would guess, over 100 or so people that wanted to see the dentist or the doctor, and it was 95 degrees, and we put up these little tarp tents where people could stand under to get out of the sun. And so what we would do is we'd go around and we'd share the gospel with these people that were waiting to see the doctors. And then we thought, well, let's teach them the song. And we tried to do that. We sang the song in English, which was easy. And then one of them told the interpreter, we need to learn that in Haitian, Creole. So do you want to sing this? Because I don't really know it very well. You can try it. Okay?
You know what happened when I tried to start?
Yes, I remember. It was okay.
Well, the problem was I said it was too low, so I tried to start, and we started too high, and we couldn't find a place to land, and it was sad. So you go ahead and start.
So we probably need to tell them the words. It's on.
Mm-hmm.
You Tell us the words so I don't.
God is so good is bon, le a bon. And then you're going to sing that 3 times. And then he's so good to me is li bon pour moi.
You got that?
You'll get it. It'll take a minute. We'll get it.
Ready? Bon le amor, bon le amor, bon le amor, le bon pour moi. Now listen, if we can do that, if I can do that, she's the old pro. Let's do that again. Let's try again. And we want you to sing too. All right? We can't see you, but we can hear you. We know you're up there. Ready? Bon le amor. Is that right? Bon le amor. Bon le amor. Li bon pour moi. All right. So see, you already know. You already know we're Haitian Creole, and we do too. And so that's hard to get that out of your mind after singing. So I'm going to kind of stand up here with Amy as you sing. Yeah, keep let us stand.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say when I was looking through my pictures and my journal and trying to think what I wanted to say tonight, I really wanted to tell you about the children that we saw, because that's what really speaks to my heart. And this picture is from the first day that we were there, the first day we went to the new property or the building, the new orphanage compound. And these children were just a handful of so many that as soon as we left the compound wall, they would just swarm to us and they would grab onto our hands and walk with us, and they would walk miles with us. It's just as far as we walked. And it didn't matter if they didn't have shoes. Some of them were only half clothed, but they would smile and they acted like we were the best thing that had ever happened to them. And they just wanted somebody to love them and to give them attention and to care for them, really, because they're so starved for love. And if you want to cycle on to the next shot, these are 3 of the little girls that I really bonded with on this trip. And you can keep going because it's just a couple of quick ones. This little boy especially pulled at my heart because he had a little baby sister, maybe 2 years old. And as we were walking, he kept trying to tell me something, and I couldn't get it. Sometimes hand motions, and work, but I wasn't understanding. And finally, I asked one of the translators, and he told me that this little boy wanted me to take his baby sister with me when I left. And it's things like that just will break your heart because you can't do anything and you can't help them, and you feel like you can't. But the one thing that I really love about what Mr. John is doing, and here's 2 more of the little boys that we met, is that with his ministry, with One Vision, he is implementing long-term goals, and he's going to help these people, and he is sending help. We can't do much right now except just love on them and try to show them Christ's love by example and just by talking to them. Even if they can't understand a word we're saying, it didn't matter. They just wanted to be talked to. This little boy here walked around with me the second day, and he was about 5 or 6 years old, and he was just begging for food, and that's all he wanted. And then even when he understood that I couldn't give it to him, he would walk with me. This picture was actually taken by one of the little girls because they knew that you had things. We had our backpacks and our fanny packs and our water bottles, and they knew that you had more than they did. And they would just beg for whatever they could, they could think of or they could see. And so a lot of times I would just let them have it, and I would let them play with the camera and stuff because it would just make their day. And it was one of those things where the things that matter to you don't matter as much when you see needs like this, and you can hand your things over, and it's not a part of you anymore. It doesn't affect you, and it doesn't matter that if it breaks or if it gets lost because it's bringing joy to somebody else. And this shot was taken on Wednesday. Pastor Allen and I were kind of going around, and this woman we had met on the day before, I think. And You can see.
Her name was Woman.
And she had 2 little children, and she let me hold one of them. And the little one is 4 years old. The one laying down on the bed is 16 years old, and they've been crippled, I guess, from birth. As far as I could tell, they couldn't talk or communicate, or they were completely dependent on their mother. But the amazing thing to me about this woman and this family that we met was that she just had joy, and her face lit up with a smile when she saw us coming, and she just seemed to be so happy. And we found out by talking to her that she does know the Lord. And it was just amazing to see how people with nothing, and you can't see in this picture.
While we were talking to her, we finished sharing the Lord with her. She professed her faith. Then she said, "And what about you?" And so they were concerned that everybody knew Jesus. So that was one of the ladies that knew him.
And this is our last day at the new orphanage property out of the compound. We did a clinic, and this little boy, there was a crowd of children that had come around, and let me tell you, you bandage one scraped elbow, and all 25 of them want you to help them. And as much as it's easy to say that, and you kind of laugh, and I laugh too, just because they're children and they're cute, but it breaks your heart because you know this isn't a lasting thing. It's just a quick fix. And this little boy he had terribly infected sores, and we tried to help him as best as we could. You can go on to the next picture. This was his smile of thanks after we had helped him, and he and one of his buddies, and they are so proud to have their picture taken and to feel like someone's giving them attention and someone loves them. And then in the next shot, we have Miss Faye with one of the little boys that was there at the day of the clinic. And I just wanted to show you that shot because it really shows what we were there for, or what I felt like we were there for. It was just to show them love, because that's really, I think, what the Lord wanted for us to do, because they have such great needs. And this was the group of kids that I kind of played with that last day, and I've never exercised so much in my entire life, because I got roped into playing so many games, but they were so proud. They were so proud of showing off all their tricks and their games and trying to teach me, who, the white foreigner who has no idea what we're talking about. But they did a pretty good job. They were good little teachers, and they just loved the fact that somebody would play with them, take the time for them. And then we had the children at the orphanage. This is one of the schoolrooms that they have, I think, 3 or 4 different classrooms that are open air. And in the center, you can see the little girl in pink. She was one that really bonded with me, she really pulled at my heart. And the little boy, if I go one back, sorry, the little boy sitting to her right, would be, I guess, her left, our right, in the blue and white shirt, is baby Job. And I wanted to tell you about him real quick, because he's 4 years old. He looks not even 2. The children sitting on either side of him are about 5 years old, and so you can just see how tiny he is. And when we asked Mr. John about it, he told us that One Vision had Job for about 8 months. And when they first found him, or first met Job, he weighed 16 pounds. He was very severely malnourished, and you can still see, he's much healthier now, but you can still see he's just so small, and he wants to be held all the time. And I think Job is a good example of what so many Haitian children face, because they have no medicine, and it's very difficult, and they have no food, no water. It's very difficult for them to survive. But if you go on to the next shot, this is that little girl again, Mondaline. And in the background, in the far back right corner, is baby Luke, which is Mr. Robert's baby. And he would have taken him home with him if he could have. But these children just, I just wanted to show you kind of an up-close shot, because those little eyes and those little faces just really pull at your heart. And they would swarm all over you again, even at the orphanage, where they are well cared for and well loved. They love to have attention, and compared to the children that we saw out in the village, these children are privileged, and they are well loved and well fed, and they have clean water. They don't have to worry about disease from that. And it was hard to see the need so much in these children, just because we had seen such great needs in the others. But they're still there. They still live in dust and dirt, and there is not nearly the sanitation and hygiene and the care that we would expect in America for children. Just because it is still Haiti, but these children are loved. This little boy, I found out after we had come back that he was a special needs little boy, and he has some learning difficulties, but he was a precious one that we met at the orphanage. And if you go to the next shot, this is the last one, and I really just wanted to communicate. It's hard to explain something that you've seen that other people can't be there for. But these children have such great needs, and they need people to pray for them and to support them every month, because the money to feed them has to come from somewhere. And Mr. John just has to pray and ask the Lord that it comes in on time. And these children are so precious, and they really pulled at my heart. I think that all of us were touched, and we were all changed, I think, by seeing these needs. But if you feel the Lord moving on your heart to pray for these children, or to support them, I think that the Lord would be very pleased, because these are His children. They're far away, and sometimes, it seems like child sponsorship programs and humanitarian relief organizations, there are so many of them, and it just seems like these people are far away and they'll get taken care of somehow. But when you see the kids, and you get to meet them, and you get to play with them and touch them and hold them, then it becomes real, I think. And so that was the end of.
Thank you, Amy. Now, when the Crips come up, Faye and the rifleman, Faye and
Pastor, I got my eyes on you.
I know you do.
Y'all have seen a lot of things that's been going on last week with all of us. But the one thing that I want to do is I want to thank the church for supporting us monetarily and with their prayers as we were all honoring our Lord and Savior. You don't know what it feels like to go to a place like that with the need that they have, and the love they show you, and the love that you can show them. It is one of the greatest things you could ever do. I'd like to thank the people, John Miller, which is co-founder of this One Vision. I'd like to thank Izzy, which was Cecile's dad, for the hospitality he showed us at the hotel. And San Francisco and Cecile and our little boy Dylan for being such a great host to us. We loved every minute of it. It was a little bit different this year than it was last year. We had air conditioning, which we didn't have last year, and we did not have tents with holes in them, so it was a little bit better than it was last year. That's all I got to say. I'll let my wife do the rest of the talking. Thank you.
Well, I want to take a little different approach than the others. I had so many pictures, we couldn't just talk about each one, and I do want to share a lot of those with you. But I want to talk a little bit about, see here, can you? Well, I want to talk a little bit about the unity of our team. And they reminded me a lot of Paul and Barnabas and how they experienced such pleasure in serving together. I saw no competition, no battle of egos, no one was threatened by the other's gifts. There were no hidden agendas and no unresolved conflicts. The goal was simply to magnify Christ and not ourselves. And Jason had no problem pulling my pink carry-on all through the Miami airport. He certainly was not magnifying himself, but at that point I appreciated himself. I love Warren Wiersbe's definition of ministry. He said, ministry takes place when divine resources meet human needs through loving channels, all to the glory of God. And I think that's what we were all striving to do. I think we were all out of our comfort zone. We were not necessarily used to cold water. But when we saw so many of these people that had no water at all, and the local people, if they got water, they had to sometimes walk miles to get it, and it was not sanitary even then. So that made our cold water feel a lot more easy to tolerate. They lived in literal tents. There were no doors, no locks on those doors. There were no kitchen supplies. It was just a hut, a place to live. Buddhism was so ingrained in their minds that they believed all their health issues were brought on them by the witch doctor. One lady we saw, they said, was 26 years old and had been sick for 12 years. She was sitting in a straight back chair and was obviously very sick. And Francisco said probably it was just something treatable, but they had no money to see a doctor, and they would have had to go into Port-au-Prince even at that point. But they believed that their neighbors thought their place of residence was a little bit better than theirs, so they had gone to the witch doctor and asked him to put a curse on them, which they think is what is wrong with this girl. So I hugged her and told her I loved her, and she was speaking something to me that I didn't understand. So our interpreter told me that she was saying, please stay with you. And I would have if I could. Tim learned how to get sweaty and dirty. That was the better part of our trip. Crystal learned she could actually pull tooth in a not so sterile environment. I had to watch this to believe it, but it really happened. Pastor found many doors of service that he would never have had the opportunity to experience if he'd stayed in the comfortable setting surrounded by staff and prayer warriors. And so we're so grateful that he got to see firsthand what's going on there. Amy, I don't know what to say about you except that I'm a soulmate, a woman of prayer who loves these people as much as I do. It was my pleasure to share this first of your mission trips with you. Ben, your passion for the Lord kept me grounded. And I so appreciate the note you showed me on the plane coming back when I was just falling apart. And you bumped me with your elbow and slid a magazine over you'd been looking at, and it said simply, "Are you okay?" So I appreciate that. And as you all saw, Robert was keeping a watchful eye on us all. The children at the orphanage, we found them to all be well fed. They had lots to eat. I'm not sure they had a lot of nutrition in what they were eating, and I'm working on that a little bit. I have someone who has connections with orphanages that is looking into maybe helping them a bit with their nutritional aspect. All the children there were clothed. They had shoes on, usually flip-flops or Crocs or something like that. They had caregivers called mothers that looked after the children 24/7. They had two women that did nothing but wash clothes all day. They had a big tub of water. And I counted at one point 13 clotheslines, and there were still mountains of clothes and piles. They had 2 women who cooked meals all day. They cooked breakfast, they washed dishes, they cooked lunch, they washed dishes, they cooked dinner, they washed dishes. In the mornings, they had school time. And it was during that time that we were able to go out to the new orphanage location and visit with some of the locals out there and share some rice with them, share the gospel with them. And we found that most all of them, if you say, "Are you a Christian?" they would say yes. And I think often they thought maybe they would get something if they answered yes. I found if you asked, "Do you know who Jesus Christ is?" they would usually say yes. And at that point I would have said, "Well, tell me, who is Jesus Christ? Tell me what Jesus Christ did." And that would open the door for you to have a deep conversation with them and share the gospel. The one thing the children at the orphanage seemed to be lacking was a lot of hugs. You can imagine 10 mothers and 75 children. There was not time to give them a lot of hugs. But this is one thing we could do, and we were so willing to do, and we gave it to them in abundance. We had to remember that God doesn't exist to make us happy. No, we exist to bring Him glory. And that was our goal during this visit, was to bring glory to our God. And thank you all for the gifts that you gave to make this trip possible. We did all we could do to honor our God and you by the things we did while we were there. And thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, our Haiti trip represented a lot of firsts for us. It was our first stamp in our passports, our first trip out of the North America, our first short-term mission trip, and it was our first time doing dental work in the mission field. This trip was living out the verse Matthew 25:35, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me." Go ahead and roll the next one. This is a picture of myself and I believe his name was Charles Wesley. And in the morning we were at the village, and he often tagged along as we went hut to hut to share the gospel. And though we were sharing the gospel with the individuals in the huts, because he was tagging along so closely, he heard the gospel several times. And we pray that through this that seeds might be planted for the future, for salvation for him.
Here's a picture of me with our 3 translators who were with us throughout the duration of our trip down there. They were a tremendous help to us, very friendly, and they did a great job to help interpret for us. And this is on our second day, I believe, at the property, where on the first day we had gone through the village and spoke with some of the people around the property, and then on the next day we tried to follow up with those same people and see if we could fulfill some of their needs.